From the author of Spinsterella, a strange and unusual romance and spellbound, a darker shade of black comes the legendary Magic Children. Pick up the conclusion of the Spinsterella trilogy in paperback and e-readers this Halloween. I was waiting with a family member for a bus this Sunday when I clearly saw how these Arab-owned stores are a blot in black communities and how they bring down the quality of life in black communities. Now, while we were waiting for this bus to come in here in my neighborhood here in the Bronx, there was one of these individuals standing outside of this Hispanic bakery across the street. And as he stood outside this Hispanic owned bakery across the street from this Arab owned store, this guy was dirty, he was disheveled, and he was standing outside of this store begging for change. He was standing right outside of the door begging for change. Now that's called aggressive panhandling, but this is one of the issues that Arab owned stores enable by just being there. This guy was standing there aggressively panhandling people outside of this Hispanic bakery. And then once he got enough money from aggressively panhandling, he then darted across the street to this Arab-owned store, which also talked about how it was a so-called smoke shop or a vape shop. And after he got whatever he got out of there, he darted right down the street and went to go smoke whatever he wanted to smoke. And that's a clear testament to me of how these Arab owned stores bring down the quality of life in black communities. Because when it comes down to this Arab owned store, they enable a lot of the dysfunctional behaviors of black people in black communities by selling products that promote black dysfunction, like your black and mild cigars and other sorts of cigars to people, and that promotes the use of marijuana use and smoking a blunt. Some of them actually sell the marijuana to people under the table, like in the case of what happened with Mike Brown, where Mike Brown went into this Arab-owned store to go get these cigars that he had bartered in exchange for some bags of weed. So that's how they really bring down the quality of life in the black community, because they support many of the criminal enterprises in the black community, such as the sale of weed and the sale of weed related items like your black and mild cigars, because people buy black and mild cigars not to smoke the cigar. They buy a black and mild cigar because they want to go get a nickel bag of weed to go smoke up. That's the main reason why these stores sell these black and mild cigars on the regular. Now, your Arab owned stores also participate in other sorts of illegal activities, such as here in New York, they say you cannot sell hot food to someone on an EBT card, and you can't sell alcohol to someone who has an EBT card. However, you walk into one of these Arab-owned stores, you can pick up yourself a bottle of a Colt 45, you can order yourself a hot sandwich or a hamburger or a Jamaican beef patty that the Arab guy will prepare for you. And if you have an EBT card, he's going to take that as payment. And the reason why he's going to take it as a payment is because what he's going to do with that hot food that's supposed to be taxable is he's going to ring it up as a grocery item such as milk. And because he rings it up as a grocery item, he then makes money by selling the hot food to the individual. And they do this all the time in these Arab owned stores. Now, not only do they do that with the hot food, they also buy people's food stamps by saying they take the food stamps and then say that they put up a whole bunch of grocery items. However, you go in the store and you don't see a lot of groceries in that grocery store. And this is again how your Arab-owned stores support criminal enterprise in the black community. Another way your Arab-owned store supports criminal enterprise in the black community relates to cigarettes. Now, I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, Eric Garner was choked out by Officer Daniel Pantaleo for selling loose cigarettes outside of one of these Asian beauty supply stores. Now, people got upset about Eric Garner selling those cigarettes, and I think the reason why they got upset is because this black man was selling these loose cigarettes. Because these Arab-owned stores in my neighborhood, I can tell you from seeing it, they sell these loose cigarettes on the regular. I see people going in and out of these stores getting these loose cigarettes, and they sell them on the regular. However, you won't see any police going to enforce these cigarette laws on these Arab-owned stores. These Arab-owned stores will sell these loose cigarettes to anyone and everyone, and nobody in law enforcement wants to go after them. Moreover, some of these Arab-owned stores will go out of their way to sell alcohol to minors. They'll also do this. And again, law enforcement won't go after this Arab-owned store. And it clearly shows me again how spellbound many people are by racism. They'll have a problem with the black person selling the loose cigarettes like Eric Garner, and the alcohol in their community, but they won't have a problem with this Arab selling these sort of items and then bringing down the quality of life in black communities. These guys commit crimes on the regular in the black community. They promote criminal enterprise in the black community, and they support the degenerate and debaucherous people in the black community, because every time you go into one of these Arab-owned stores or approach these Arab-owned stores, you will always see a group of dysfunctional Negroes standing outside of one of these Arab-owned stores. And the reason why they are allowed to stand outside there is because this guy is comfortable with the idea of these type of Negroes going to a store, frequenting it, and supporting it. So he supports their criminal enterprise, their loitering, by having them stand outside of a store. If you go to a Dominican store here in the Bronx or a Hispanic store, you won't see guys standing outside of the store. But if you go to an Arab-owned store, you're going to see a group of Negroes standing outside of that store. Some of them with sagging pants, some of them with pit bulls. You'll see them standing outside of these stores, and the owner is perfectly fine. I've seen Dominicans, they will chase these guys away and say, you cannot stand outside here, you cannot loiter here, because they're trying to run a business, and they understand if people are standing outside of their store, it brings down the quality of life in the neighborhood, and it really decreases people's safety in the neighborhood. The Arab guy, on the other hand, has no problem with people aggressively panhandling outside of his store, and he has no problem with people loitering outside of his store, bringing down the quality of life in the neighborhood. Because when guys stand outside of stores, they're not standing there for a good reason. And it's really scary, because when you see these guys standing outside the store, they get up at, as I've seen, 7 a.m. to go stand outside of the store for 8, 9, 10 hours, and they'll stand there from 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. all the way till midnight when this store closes. And again, that brings down the quality of life in the neighborhood when you see these guys standing outside of these stores. And again, these stores bring down the quality of life for people in the neighborhood. They are dens of iniquity. They are places where criminal enterprise is supported, and they are places that are an urban blight in black communities. Now, nobody has a problem with people wanting to open up a business, but businesses have to improve the quality of life for all the people in those communities. Whenever there are Hispanic stores here in the Bronx, they improve the quality of life for people in the community. They, in many cases, they operate legally, they provide products and services for people, and they maintain a quality of life in the neighborhood by making sure that the place around there is clean, that there are people aren't loitering outside and causing trouble, and they make sure that the neighborhood is safe. However, when it comes down to these Arab-owned stores, they bring a blight to the community, and they bring down the quality of life for everyone. So I can see honestly what David Carroll talks about how these Arab-owned stores are a blight in black communities, how they bring down the quality of life. Because when you are supporting people in having drug habits and you're supporting them in criminal enterprise, you are tearing down the fabric of a community, and you're exploiting people in that community. You're exploiting them to make money at their expense, and then once you've made your money, you leave the community in a worse state than it actually was before you come there. And that's what these Arab-owned stores do. They bring down, they leave the community in a worse state than it was in before, because they support the drug use, they support the drug dealers, and some of them actually deal the drugs in there, and they support criminal enterprise that brings down that puts everybody's safety at risk, puts everybody's quality of life at risk, and puts everybody's health at risk. The only way to deal with these Arab-owned stores and the problems that are related to them is to just not shop there, because if you don't shop there, they have no way of making money, and if they have no way of making money, they will leave the black community and go someplace else to do what they do. And it would be better if they just left, because the way they're bringing to the black community is blight and bringing down the quality of life for black people in black communities. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you'd like to try some of my SJS direct titles, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.